Hi, welcome back to my channel. This is Psychic Medium Raymond Guzman, and today I'm going to be doing a celebrity psychic reading, mediumship reading on Brittany Murphy. This has been a video that's been requested, a reading that's been requested for quite some time because the reason behind, or the cause of death behind Brittany's passing is very murky. It's very unclear, very ambiguous. Just like a lot of celebrity deaths and murders out there. So I don't know anything about Brittany other than she was an actress, very popular, at her age, and she died in 2009 at the age of 32. And her husband, Simon, I can't pronounce his last name, passed less than a year after her in 2010. And supposedly the cause of death, that's out there, that was stated for both of them was pneumonia. So I'm going to get into this immediately and talk about Brittany and what I feel from her soul, what I get, that contributed, or what was the main cause, like what was this all about? So immediately I get someone that is very tough on the outside, a very different on the inside. She had two different personas, I feel like, personalities. Who she was on screen and acting, and who she was as a person, herself, in the confines of her own home and her own space, and who she was with friends was very different. I feel like she was someone who really didn't like the spotlight after a while. Yes, she would go to appearances and movie premieres and things like that. And, she would go to these parties, whatever parties they would have, for the among actors and actresses. And she knew a lot of people, but ultimately she did like the privacy of her own space. I do feel like she did have some health conditions as well, like that were not discussed, or maybe she didn't want to acknowledge them, but I do feel like she did have some body issues on how she viewed herself. And there was this obsession to be thin in many ways. Some people would have speculated that she suffered from anorexia or bulimia or some kind of, eating disorder, which I feel like she did in many ways, but she kept that more to herself. But I do feel like she was someone that didn't have immediately, because I am someone who can see a lot of the medical things, but I'm not a doctor, so this is not a diagnosis at all. But I do feel like she did have some vitamin deficiencies. Like I said, her health was not the best. I do feel like she was tired a lot of the times, and she would sleep for long hours when she could get some restful sleep, but it was already affecting her body. I do feel like she had plans. Eventually, she wanted to have children. So this was like something that she wanted to do. There was plans of this. This is what I'm getting from her. She did want to start a family. But when it comes to her marriage with Simon, I don't feel like there was love there for some reason. Even though they got together, I feel like the mom was opposed to that union in many ways, and also the dad. And I also feel like they were not. Like, people just couldn't see what Brittany saw in Simon. Like they couldn't see why she found him attractive and whatnot. He was someone, Simon, her husband, that had a lot of legal issues. He was someone that lied a lot. I feel like he wasn't very honest in many ways, and so for money, he wasn't good at handling it. I feel like he was always going on foolish things, and there was some unclean handling of the money is what I'm getting from Spirit. And this kind of created a rift. So things were not, leading up to Brittany's passing, things were not really perfect. They weren't good. I also feel like her relationship with her mom was strained. There was a lot of her mom telling her, this is not right, or, you need to do this, and Brittany kind of telling her, no, you need to butt out. This is my life. This is what I'm gonna do. I'm an adult, kind of respect my space. So I feel like there was definitely some, even though she loved her mom, that there was definitely some tension there between her and her mom. And there was some fear on where her money was going. I feel like even though she had some money, that was coming in from her work and whatnot and acting, that there would have been some problems that were eventually coming to the surface slowly. But I do get that that her passing was not normal. It's not like what they're saying in the autopsy, that it was pneumonia. I do feel like she was poisoned in many ways. That's what I'm getting. She was poisoned, and so was her husband a year later. I think a lot of people may have blamed him as well for for her passing, saying that he caused it, or that he murdered her in some ways. Um, but I don't get that either. I feel like both of them were taken out. Both of them were murdered and poisoned slowly over time to be eliminated. But the question would be why? Like, why would they have been poisoned? And it's because they knew things. Again, they knew things. A lot of people have asked, well, her father blamed the mother for their cause of death, because when they did the report, the autopsy, the toxicology, there was a lot of different kind of metals, or I'm not familiar with what was in there, but there was a lot of that in the toxicology report found in Brittany's body, which could be considered like poison. Being that she was so petite in a small frame, if these doses were given over a specific amount of time, slowly, like in the drinks and stuff, it would have started taking a toll on the body. But I do feel like she was definitely poisoned, and it was because she knew things, again, that about people, and she was considered like a threat. And when people are considered like a threat, and that they know too much, it can get to that point where any kind of disagreement will lead to this eventually to happening. Do I feel like her mom is responsible? No. A lot of people blame Sharon Murphy. I believe that's the mom's name, whether or not she's guilty of it. However, I do find it odd that she was the one in the house when Simon, her husband, died less than a year later, in 2010, and she was the one that actually called the paramedics, or 911, reporting that she found him there. There was also rumors that their deaths were caused by mold. I feel like that's a farce. That's a lie. First of all, these are rich people, like rich, well, Brittany was rich, and I don't feel like she would have lived in some kind of dump, or some kind of house. And if there was a mold issue, usually if it's toxic mold, it will seep through the ceiling and you will see it. Not always, sometimes it is hidden, but usually it will come through the surface, especially with sheetrock or paneling. You will see the mold. It is visible. Especially if it's black mold and it's grown over time. So I do get that that's just, it's ridiculous, that claim that they both passed from mold and that it created like pulmonary things. I don't get that. Now, Simon, I feel like he did have cardiovascular issues already with his heart. There were some health issues that he had himself. Pre-existing issues that when, again, given these poisons in higher doses, it would have caused this toxic, cycle to cause, eventually cardiac arrest and cause breathing issues for the pulmonary system and the heart, the circulatory, to shut down. But what I get is that there was a lot of fights leading up to her passing. I feel like she was, someone else was interested in Brittany as well, another male. I definitely get that there was a younger male, someone younger than her husband, that would have been interested in her, but it almost feels like there would have been some kind of affair. So again, in many ways, I don't know if, what level of flirting, what level of communication they would have had. But I'm getting from her soul that there was definitely heartbreak. There was heartbreak, and there was a lot of problems, like I said, within the marriage that she was in, and she felt trapped in many ways. And I don't feel like that marriage, if she would have lived, would have lasted for a very long time, because there was a lot of factors against them. First of all, that wasn't her soulmate. The guy that she was married to, Simon, wasn't her soulmate, and I don't get that he also loved her in many ways. I feel like that he was someone that didn't really want to do a lot of contributing around the house. He didn't want to do things. He liked to be on the phone, doing other things. But I feel like there was not true love there. If anything, I feel like he did get with her for her money. I'm just being honest. Even though he may have had, his own career, whatnot. But that is what's coming through from Spirit. And I do feel like she was trying to get away from this. And there was something legal that was going to be coming up um, in 2010, I believe, from her. Had she been alive, she was working on something. Either it was going to be asking him for the divorce or whatnot, but there was definitely some issues, things that she found out about him that she didn't know when she got with him, things that were hidden and not told to her, things that her mom would know, that she would know, because I feel like Brittany did, even though they didn't get along the best, she did open up to her mom and some friends about, the problems in the marriage, problems in her life regarding him. So there was something here about her. Eventually, I feel like she was going to ask for the divorce. She was going to move. That wasn't motive for him to kill her. I don't feel like he was the one responsible for that, because again, he also passed in a very mysterious way. But I do feel like both of them knew information. And I'm getting a male with brown hair that is a very strong position in that industry that she was in. That, again, there's a lot of darkness around this, just a lot of darkness. And I do feel like she was trying to move away from all of this. She was trying to get away from all of this and put it behind her. But it always came to the forefront of, of her career. And in many ways, I feel like it was impacting her work. Like when she was on set or when she was filming, there would have been some things that other cast members would have noticed. Maybe some of her like maybe drifting off, or kind of like looking kind of worried. But I feel like there was this worry, that she had in her heart and soul. And yeah, I do feel like there was going to be something that it was legal coming up for her. And I feel like it was like she was going to go through some legal issues, divorcing him, because I feel like she found out he was involved in some things and owed money. He owed money is what I'm getting. Simon owed money to someone in power. And if you can't pay that money back, well, they're going to do things. Many people that are in these positions, they're going to do things. And if you open your mouth, again, you're going to be eliminated in many ways. That's how some of these circles, traverse, or that's how they operate. It's very dark. It's very, it wouldn't make sense to the regular person that would be, like if you were to be in that situation, it wouldn't make sense, that this would be your, what happens to you. But again, like I said, it was no coincidence that they both died months apart, and in the same, autopsy was the same. A lot of this is, like I said, when people have power and have money, autopsies can be misconstrued. They can be set one way for the public to know, but the real cause will not be disclosed to the public, even though it's supposed to be quote unquote public knowledge. In some cases, since they are celebrities, it's not going to always be what you see as quote unquote public knowledge. So that is the mediumship reading, what I can say. I do feel like the person that is responsible for her passing is still alive. So and for her husband's passing. So, again, it only God knows in the universe if there is going to be justice served. I feel like there won't be here in the physical world, but in the spiritual world, there will be, definitely. So, this was the celebrity psychic reading, mediumship reading on Brittany Murphy. Big hugs and angel hugs to her family and to her her fan base that still watches her movies and her acting, whatever she was on. So big hugs to them and to her friends, and just the best thing people can do is to pray for the a lot of these celebrities that are out in Hollywood, because a lot of them are targets, and eventually it becomes that. And I know that listening to this, sometimes some of these readings that I do for celebrities, it can be looked at as almost like a fear-based reading, and that is not what I do. I don't base it on fear, but a lot of it is hard to believe from people that see them as actors or actresses and think that, oh, well, their life is perfect and they don't go through, things, but they're in more danger, I would say, than regular civilians that are, just work a regular job. And the reason for that is that the industry that they are in is a very powerful industry. There are a lot of secrets and things that people that, like I said, work regular jobs would not be aware of that go down. And when you are in a spotlight, and there's a major scandal, the first thing that is going to do is going to involve the press. And if it's going to involve the press, then it's going to bring light into a lot of these darker areas that surround these celebrities. And if that gets exposed, then it can lead to legal issues. And again, a lot of this is going to always be swept under the rug. And the way that they do that is to eliminate certain people. So again, this is not fear-based, but it's actually reality, and it is happening. If you look at a lot of these celebrity deaths, Kim Porter and all, Michael Jackson, Prince, all these with quote-unquote flu-like symptoms, again, quote-unquote pneumonia, not feeling well, etc., etc. So you can, do the math and put it together. As consciousness elevates more and more, we're going to start seeing the truth for what it is and not what the media and propaganda out there is feeding us. And again, I'm not a conspiracy theorist, but if you pay attention to all these things, you will see it. So blessings and love and light. Have an amazing day.